It doesn't make any difference what City Hall does. It doesn't make any difference what the atheists do. It doesn't make any difference what the politicians do. It only matters what God says to do. And these three Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, said, we will not dishonor the commands of God. Let's look at verse 17. It says, if that is the case, talking about that they're going to be thrown into the fiery furnace, whom we served is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hands, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your God, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. So they're saying, it doesn't make any difference what you do. It doesn't make any difference what is going on. We're not going to worship your God. We're not going to bow down because our God is real. Our God saw us through all of the problems that the nation of Israel had. When they were in captivity, He moved them through the Red Sea on dry ground. He moved them out and put them in the promised land. There was not a promise that God ever made to the nation of Israel that He has not kept. Now there's plenty of promises that the nation of Israel has promised God, and that the United States and us and all of us have promised God and not kept. God has never made a promise that He has not kept. There is a word there. Even if. It says that you're going to take us to the fiery furnace, you're going to heat it up, and you're going to do it, but if not, if God does not deliver us, it doesn't make any difference. Now this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. How many of y'all remember that movie? I watched it the other night. Now the good and bad and the ugly is simply this. The good is that God will deliver them. The bad is He doesn't deliver them. Now the ugly part of this, it's going to get hot. Now here's what normally happens. These young men would have been taken to the top of the furnace. It would not have been heated 7 times. It would have been just a fire in there. And what they would have done is they would have stripped them naked. And they would then have bound them. And then they would have thrown them into the furnace. And because of all of the low heat of the fire, it would have created such horrible, terrific pain that they would have been screaming at the top of their lungs for relief. And so that's what would have normally happened. But the king got so mad. In verse 22, it says, because the king's man was urged to furnish exceedingly hot the flames, of all of the things that happened, he wanted it 7 times hotter, and it became so hot. Listen to this. He's got them bound. They're still in their clothes, and you know it's getting hot up there by now. And so they're standing at the top and fixing to go in, and the guys that are leading them up there, they're all killed. Now, how many of us would have saw the opportunity to run? You know, you might think about it. But all of a sudden, these young men went through with what was commanded of them. They went into the fiery furnace. They went into the fiery furnace. They were no one around them because they had already been killed. They went into the fiery furnace. Why? See, because God's not going to deliver you until you step into the problem. If you don't have a problem, why do you need delivering? But when they stepped into the problem, then God's deliverance took place. God's mercy, God's grace, God's deliverance took place right then. How many of you here today need to be delivered? You can't be delivered till you put your feet to your prayers. You've got to step into it. And if you don't step into it, there's no deliverance coming. There's no deliverance coming. Look at verse 24. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to him, True, O king. Look, he answered, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Folks, they were delivered. God delivered them through the fiery furnace. Now, let me just give you a hint on something here. First of all, they were delivered. Their clothes were not burnt. Their hair was not singed, nor even was there a smell of fire on them. When God delivers you, you've put your faith and your trust in God. When God delivers you, it is a complete deliverance. It is a complete deliverance. People who need to be delivered from drugs or alcohol, when God delivers you, it is a complete deliverance. Those of you that have done things in your past that you're not proud of, when you're delivered by God, you are delivered totally. But you first of all got to have faith that God will deliver you. Most people, unfortunately, we don't have faith. We talk about, oh, God is not going to do that for me. The problem is the God that you're serving is not big enough to do that. You need to get you a bigger God. I'd like to introduce you to my God. My God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's a God that created the heavens and the earth. He's a God that saw the nation of Israel across the Red Sea on dry ground. He's the one that sent His Son to die on the cross of Calvary, and then miraculously after 3 days raised Him from the grave and said, the sin debt is paid. That's the God that can do anything. So when you tell me that God won't do it, you're not serving the right God. You're serving a little God, and we got a big God. But remember this. You've got to step in. Those Hebrew children were not delivered until they stepped in the fire. How many of you are willing to step in? How many are willing to step in this morning and say, I need a deliverance, but I got to step in and I've got to put my faith and my trust in God the Father through His Son, Jesus Christ?